All right, well, the time has come to dive back into the C6 Z06 competition drift car build. We are building this car for a series called Clutch Kickers. It is a big payout drift series. They pay out $25,000 each round. Tons of good competition. It's an absolutely amazing series. We've competed in it the last 2 years in my LS Miata, and we've been pretty outgunned. 2,500 pound car, 500 horsepower, 225 tire. Now, the Nitto NT01 tires that we ran, they helped us keep up. But again, very outgunned compared to some of the cars that were there. So it's time to step up the game, and that is what we are doing with this car. We are building a much more serious competition car to go compete in the series, and the timing kind of works out great because this coming season they're moving to the Freedom Factory. So we're going from a small technical track to a much bigger, faster track. Now, I'm sure there'll still be a lot of technical layouts and so on and so forth, but it's a great time for us to be stepping into a new chassis. And it means we really need to make sure we get this thing done before next season, because it's going to be even worse to have to start the season with the LS Miata if we slack too hard and don't get this thing ready. So that being said, it's time to start grinding on it. So the first project we're going to do is make this thing a proper roller. So you might think, well, looks like it's a roller to me. Well, it is, but it isn't. So the rear knuckles have been modified so the car has a crazy amount of toe in, which makes it very annoying to push. So we got to keep it on these rollers, but these get a little obnoxious going in and out of the driveway. And regardless, we have a ton of trick suspension stuff to go on this car, and I want to get that stuff done and dusted. So it's a proper roller. Two, we get to see what it's like with all the good suspension goodies. So first thing we're going to do, get this thing lifted up on the quick jack. I'll show you what it has now, show you what we got going on it, and yeah, we'll get this thing hammered out. So this will be the first project working in the garage here, which is pretty exciting. You know, we spent so much time getting the shop torn down and cleared out and getting this place set up. We haven't had any time to actually work on the cars that the place is designed for. So I'm really excited to see what it's like to work in here and again, get some more work done on this car. So that being said, whole lot of jibber jabber. Let's get into it. It's been a while since I've used the old quick jacks. First thing I gotta do is ditch these silly lug nuts. So used to having the same Lutecky SR48s on everything. Things just crack you up. All the money that was spent on this car, and it still has these chrome capped lug nuts. Like, the cap isn't the structure, it's a little metal lug nut. These suck. They fall apart all the time. All right, we got this thing up on the quick jacks. We got all the wheels off, and it's time to dive into the suspension. We're gonna start with the front because it's the most fun and exciting for sure. So what we currently have on this car is basically a stock upper control arm, a modified knuckle, and a custom lower control arm. So this kit was built for this car back before there were really any angle kits available. So they basically cut and re-drilled the knuckle to shorten this point to give you more angle. Built a lower control arm for more clearance. They also built this kind of custom blade sway bar deal. Now, I don't know if we're gonna keep this or not. I'm on the fence about that, we'll see. But the rest of this has to go. Ton of good options available now, and you know, I really want this car to be all it can be. I wanted to get the best angle kit I could for this car, and again, make it as capable as possible. So I spent a lot of time looking and kind of using what I had learned from all the different cars I've had with different angle kits, and I landed on an FDF Fab angle kit. So we put this exact kit on Cletus's Vet. That car has held up incredibly well. It drives super well. He's had absolutely no issues with it. And I really like the design and thought process with this kit. So we have a full kit, lower control arms, knuckles, upper control arms. So it's laser cut steel control arms, laser cut steel knuckles. So these are gonna be super durable. Josiah at FDF Fab is also a pro spec driver. So he understands the competition demands on an angle kit. So he sets it up where you have a failure point that's easy to replace in a 5-minute call, and the right adjustments that you need without the ones you don't. And it's just, to me, the most comprehensive and well thought out angle kit, and it's by far the most affordable complete kit you can get for a vet. So really that was a no-brainer. So I'm super excited about this. We got it powder coated this really cool red color. I am super hyped on this. I've always wanted a real flashy colored angle kit, and they knocked it out of the park with this powder coating. So super excited to get this on the car. If you're into like the nitty gritty details of this kind of stuff, we won't go too far into it in this video, but Josiah at FDF Fab has a really cool YouTube channel, and he built a whole suspension model and shows you how each change affects things, what Ackerman does, how it works, and it's a really good visual way to start to understand the dynamics of suspension in regards to like a drift car setup. So that's a really cool video series if you're interested in that kind of stuff. So I'll link it down below. But anyway, I'm gonna quit jibber jabbering so we can see this kit on the car. I'm super excited to see how much angle it has, what it looks like on there. I'm hyped. This thing is snazzy, man. So we do have some rear stuff too. We'll get into that once we're done with the front, but we got tow arms. We're gonna convert the rear to 5x114. We've got upper control arms on the way. But first, let's knock out the front. Before we start taking this apart, let me show you what angle we've got. So we'll crank it all the way. All right, so that's me holding it. It springs back a bit, but I would guess maybe 45 degrees of angle. So not a ton. Regardless of how the stuff that's on there is designed now, we need more than that. So again, enough jibber jabber, let's get to work. Doesn't even have a jam nut on one side. Easier than expected. Oh, it looked like they were almost stripped. All right, one side done, let's knock out the other. All right, we got our hubs off, we got our brakes off. This is all that we were reusing off of the old suspension. So now it's time to start assembling the angle kit on the car. Oh, my bolts are like, I have to grind those down. Yeah, they're just beat up right here behind the threads. Well, that explains why they didn't fit. I'm assuming for that DIY angle kit, they had to make some sleeves. So, got all 4 sleeves off. They're just a ton. I mean, it was a few thousandths is what this was to get it to fit in those old spherical joints, I would assume, those old misalignment spacers. I was looking at them, I'm like, this looks like aluminum, but this is not an aluminum bolt. It makes no sense. And I started grinding on it, trying to clean it up, and then voila. So, okay. Back to the task at hand. Now I can actually install the angle kit. This is one of those things, man. This is one of the reasons it takes a long time working on cars sometimes. You just run into weird issues. So anyway, I see what that angle kit looks like on the car. All right, right, so this back one here is a little tight. I'm assuming that the spherical joint that was in here before was a little too small, and when they tightened it, it kind of warped this a little bit. So I've tried to pry it a little bit, but it's cast. We're not gonna wanna pry too hard on it. I'm just kind of going in here and lightly clearancing it with the drum sander. Now we could clearance the misalignment spacer itself, but then if we ever need to toss a spare on, we've got to have a clearance misalignment spacer for this one spot. So generally you want to clearance what's least likely to be replaced. So we are going to be changing these coilovers out to some custom spec BCs, but I don't have them yet, so we're just going to run these for now, mainly for mock-up. So these coilovers have a helper spring. Still can't lift it. It's on, it's time to put the knuckle on. Trying to get an idea of how much camber we've got before we tighten everything down. Oh, it's still way too much. Okay, gotta pull more out of it. Once we figure it out with this side, where we need everything adjusted to make everything happy, we'll be able to just copy it for the other side. All right, let's see what that looks like. All right, I've got it to a point I'm happy with. It looks more aggressive because the wheel's sunk, because there's no caliper or rotor or anything on there right now, or spacer that was on there before, but I'm good with that. We've got the eccentric bolts on the subframe in the middle, so we can add some camber if we need to very easily there, or we can pull some out if we need to very easily. So I wanted to try to get it about where I wanted it with those in the middle so we could go either direction once we see it all wrapped up. So yeah, basically just copy all the settings to the other side, slap it on, and then finish bolting everything up. All right, well, the angle kit is officially on. We got both sides roughly matched. We've got all of our alignment settings roughed out. We'll have to go into them in further detail, but this is kind of our starting point. So everything's still loose. I need to go through and tighten everything down. Then we can go ahead and hook up our tie rod, eyeball our toe, get our brake assembly on, and then see how much angle the old girl has. So enough jibber jabber, let's get to it. We need some more aggressive wheels. All right, let's see how much angle it's got. Just eyeball line right now. Probably got a little toe in if anything. Oh yeah, that's way more. Wow, that's way more than it had. Oh no, we're not even on the angle stop yet. We're hitting, probably be better when it's not drooped. All right, so that's not quite all the way because we're hitting the coilover mount because the suspension's fully drooped, but definitely. What keeps slipping? It's like it gets there and then I can turn it a little more and nothing happens. Oh, I think it's slipping on the splines. So that bolt isn't tight. All right, got the steering joint fixed. It was basically too long of a bolt. 2, they didn't have the joint slid down far enough on the rack for the bolt to go through the little slot that's there so it doesn't chew up the threads. So the threads were chewed up, it wasn't tight. Yeah, mess. So one of those things, just another example of why if you're buying or building an unfinished project, you really have to assume nothing's done and go through everything. It looked like the steering shaft was done. It looked like it was bolted up. The car steered, but it wasn't tight. It had the wrong bolt, so on and so forth. So anyway, we got that fixed. I went ahead and got both wheels on so we can kind of see where we're at on both sides. Alignment's roughed out. I do need to actually measure and center the rack. I just centered it based on, the turns lock to lock, but dude, we have got tons of angle. It actually gets more than that if we put it on the ground. There's some stuff that interferes when it's at full droop like that doesn't touch when the car's on the ground. But man, ton of angle, drastic improvement from before. We can probably get a little more out of it if we go with a little bit lower offset wheel, which I want to do anyway because these are pretty sunk in there. I want them to at least be fitted. I'm glad though we should be able to have pretty much utilize all the angle without having the wheels sticking out way past the fenders. I like them to be aggressive in the front, but I don't like it when half the wheel's out here. So should work out well, should be clean, nice. So I'm really glad we got all that done. I didn't get the brake calipers on because the brake caliper bolts I have are a little too long. So basically the shank here bottoms out before the bolt gets tight. They had some combination of washers and stuff going on, but I'm just gonna go get a little bit shorter, correct size bolts so we don't have to deal with stacking washers. So I'll get that and then get the brake calipers on. And then the front is more or less done and dusted. Now, I wanted to move on to the rear. However, we're missing a couple little things we need. So we did get all of the stock arm stuff stripped down. We got a bunch of stock parts that we need, a subframe, hubs, knuckles. So we got all this split apart. That's kind of the scrap pile. I was thinking I was gonna save or give away this DIY angle kit, but after looking at it more closely, I don't want the responsibility of this being on somebody else's car. This is going in the trash. There's just a lot of very questionable things on that kit. So, but yeah, so we have stuff to do to the rear. It's currently more of a hodgepodge situation where basically to mount this second caliper, they had to move the tie rod pickup point in, which means that the tie rod adjusted as short as it goes is still way too long. So that's why the car has a ton of toe in. So we're gonna ditch this setup entirely. We're gonna probably go to a single caliper with an inline handbrake because the car already has a pedal box with separate front and rear master cylinders. So normally the problem with the inline handbrake is you can have issues with it back feeding the front brakes and having them lock up or stay on or weird things like that. But since our front and rear brakes are going to be on completely separate hydraulic systems, it really doesn't matter. So the point is, we'll go back to a single caliper. It'll simplify this whole setup a good bit. We'll have that caliper as a spare, and we have some upgrade goodies to go on this. We are also going to be converting at least the rear to 5x1 14.3. We have everything to do it but the drill bit. That's kind of what's halting our progress here, but we have the FDF plate to bolt on, the template to re-drill. So we're gonna be doing that. I'm considering doing the front too. I ordered some extra hubs. I think we're gonna do the front too. Then the car will be 5x114 instead of 5x120, and that opens up a ton of wheel options in lower offsets and stuff. The Vette kind of specific wheels are really not meant for what we're doing. It's hard to get a really low offset wheel front or rear. And kind of have a nice new stack of wheels and tires here from Fitment Industries that I ordered for the Zafiro, and the Zafiro is going to be down for another few weeks at least, so I don't know, it'd be kind of fun to try these on the old Vette here. So anyway, lots coming, plenty more work to do if we're going to get this thing done in time, but I'm excited to be making progress. Super stoked on the FDF angle kit, dude. That thing, everything fit great. I love the way it all goes together. It's very easy to take apart and adjust. A1, I would highly recommend it. So I think we're gonna wrap it up here. I'm gonna get rid of all the scrap metal, get cleaned up, and I think we're gonna be diving into a fab project next, but who knows? There's plenty of work to do. We just need to get to it. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.